Well, good evening, Warriors, and welcome to another edition of the R&R Sports Report. I am your host, Robert Hagan. With me, as always,
Always.
you don't look like Randy Isbell.
Better looking.
Better looking. David Doofenberg joining us tonight. Randy is with Chase tonight. Had some school stuff going on, so David was kind enough to join me in tonight. So thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're not bowling tonight, but
I know, finally it worked out. It's always with bowling, or the one time I do sub is when you needed me last time.
That's how it always works, especially around this part. But lots of stuff going on. Dude, you're excited. I know I messaged you earlier. You're excited to talk a little baseball today.
Yeah.
How do you feel about already the Phillies up 2-0, top of the fourth? It's already crazy start off to this game.
Yeah, I forgot it was on already, but Yeah, the two teams playing now, I had them out first round, like probably everyone else did. So
Yeah, we'll get to that here in a couple of minutes. But Dave filling in for Randy. A couple of quick things before we go down the whole lineup. We're going to be talking some Monday Night Football tonight. You did hit on it. We'll talk Major League Baseball. And I'm going to get your opinion on how the games are set because these are not the four teams we picked or I picked either. We'll also talk about a little bit of the Idaho Vandals game and how that one kind of turned out. We'll talk some college football. Also, get your players of the week besides mine. We'll talk a little picks, and we have a sports related draft. And we only got through our first each pick, so we're gonna live draft this together. So hopefully you're ready to go with that, and
yeah,
then we'll get our college picks along with our high school picks. So you ready to get to this, dude?
yeah, you picked the right week for me to be immature with all the names. So
Well, we'll get you on there. This one just went final a few minutes ago. Just got a text from my buddy Brian Bromling. The Clarkson Bams come away winners tonight, 5-0 over East Valley in senior night. Becca Skinner, who has already broke the all-time scoring record for Clarkson, comes away with 3 goals in the first half alone. Senior Sienna Newhouse finishes it up with 2 goals apiece, and they lock up the number 2 spot in the GSL. So it'll be interesting going forward with that game. And like we said, to kick things off, the Phillies lead 2-0 on 2 home runs, one by Trey Turner and also by Kyle Schwarter. Trey Turner, a little on the rough side so far, has 4 errors so far in the playoffs. What do you think about Trey Turner and this his glove work right now?
it's kind of baffling, but it goes unnoticed because they're winning. And I think it'd be a definitely bigger topic if they blew their games against the Braves because couldn't he couldn't field the ball or anything. But that guy's just a stud.
Yeah, he had another error tonight on a throw earlier, but comes back first at bat, loses the bat in his first swing, goes back, gets the pine tar, very next pitch, puts it out of the park to put the Phillies up 1-0. And then Kyle Schwarber in the bottom of the third hits a 1-run shot. So right now, currently, Phillies leading this one 2-0. Does this
It's
one
usually,
go 5 games, 4 games? What's your opinion on this?
probably it's usually the other way around. It's usually when you make a amazing play, you turn around and hit the home run. Also, it's not very often you redeem yourself. But like these two teams, they're like we might touch on it again later, but they were fighting till the last game pretty much to be in the playoffs. So they never had to shut it off. So while surprising they're there, that's not surprising too. So 5 games makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, right now, Aaron Nola pitching a gem right now. Right now, just 43 pitches, and he is at the top of the 4th inning. But it's been looking great. Phillies defense, bomb over at third base, another great play so far in this ball game. The way this team is playing is just phenomenal. We'll get to that when we talk about all of our baseball things and happening. But let's kick things off. Let's get there. Your Chargers, sir.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a break.
Your Chargers. It's been a little interesting with this team this year, with the injuries, getting back into it, getting Eckler back, but play what I thought was a decent game last night. Come up on the short end of it, losing to Dallas 20-17. But Dallas was in the same point last week too, after being obliterated, and I'm using that term. I'm gonna say it again: obliterated by
Yes.
San Francisco. They needed this game to bounce back.
Yeah, I mean, I think both teams. I think if I were to make a list of teams who don't know how good they are, these are probably the top two. And because it seems like if the Chargers go 4-13, they'll probably lose by a total of 30 points those 13 games. And Dallas, they obviously the Giants aren't the greatest, but destroy them. I'm forgetting who they also beat, but then Arizona. Well, who was that Arizona team or that Dallas team? And San Francisco, I obviously didn't think Dallas would win, but I thought they'd show up. But then this game, there wasn't any huge errors until the classic Chargers ending where they figure how to play football the last 2 minutes. But it was a great game and better team probably won, but of course it wasn't mine.
Well, you talk about, and we said it, is that Dallas needed to bounce back in this one, and they needed the defense to really step up, and they did again. Micah Parsons is showing how much of a beast he is, even with the absence of our area boy Leighton Vander Esch from Salmon River, who does not play, doesn't get to play in this one, but this defense steps up and they move him around quite a lot. Do you think that attested to a little bit of what Eckler had and Herbert had going on offensively schemed against this team?
Yeah, and I think Eckler's 100%. And as silly as it sounds, the injury on the non-throwing hand almost seems like it might have been lingering in Herbert's head a little bit, to where he still had good stuff, but Dallas just seemed to always come up at the exact right time. Like obviously both teams did in the red zone when they both went forward on fourth, and they both didn't get it. And it was, yeah, of all the teams that Chargers can lose to, though, I really enjoy that it's Dallas, because no matter what the Chargers do, they're going to talk about Dallas at the end, anyways. So
and yeah, and Chris brings up a great point there. Brandon Staley needs to be replaced? Question mark. A few of his play calls over the last 2 years have really set this team up for some. I don't want to use the word disappointments, but some downgrading of what they can do offensively. Do you think this is a put up or shut up year for him?
I think so, because against Minnesota, like going forward on fourth down to try to ice the game, I understand. But when they did it on their own 25, I no, just take the chance, use their defense. They're not playing terrible. And the same thing against the Raiders too. They almost let the Raiders win when it wasn't even Hoyer that was quarterback. It was the other guy. Obviously not Garoppolo, but whoever the backup was. They tried to let him in because they go forward on fourth down. I want to say they're on 35, so it wasn't as bad. But that luckily got through those games too. But it's just, I like the aggressiveness, because how it was our last coach, he seemed to be the most lackadaisical coach in the world, where we're trying to not lose instead of trying to win, and we lose. Anthony Lynn, that's his name. But
Right.
And now I think Staley is doing well, but just the very questionable decisions to try to win a game or ice the game.
Do you think he's trying to impress ownership, or is he trying to play into being more of a player's coach compared to a go out there and win for the owner coach?
It's hard to say anymore, because it's almost like, because I have a friend in LA that says nobody wanted the Chargers. So it's almost like you might be even trying to please the fan base. Say, hey, we're an exciting team. Here we are. But I always joke in Madden that they still have the game inaccurate because it's full of Chargers fans.
Yeah, 100%.
It's just, I think he's trying to please a fan base that didn't want them, and ownership. Say like, yeah, you guys made the right choice. You got me also. Let's win LA. And it's not happening.
You talked about fan base, and I heard a couple of numbers, and I missed it every time they would talk about the fans and scan around, but they figured that the Dallas fan base there in the new stadium in LA was almost 75% Dallas fans. We know Dallas travels well, but how do you think this affected that team last night?
It had to have some, because even like I know that, because like when they play Pittsburgh, even, or obviously the Raiders too, it's just they almost get used to it. But at the same time, you're playing well, your team isn't awful, but you make one little slip up and you hear cheers like crazy. It's like, our own team, our own fans like cheering for our failures. Oh wait, no, it's the other team. They're all here too. That's all that's here. It's got to be confusing for, like, obviously it's not the players' fault because that's the team they play for, but it's just the most baffling thing. I can't think of another team in sports right now that has such a terrible fan base, other than maybe Tampa for baseball.
Yeah, and hopefully Eric's not listening to that as well. He's tutoring right now. He should join us a little bit later. But let's talk about a guy that has been extremely hot for your team, and that's Khalil Mack. And Mack
Hmm.
had a monster game a couple weeks ago. Again, this week they hold Tony Pollard to under 30 yards on 15 carries. Uh, but that being said, that pressure on his shoulders to be that guy all the time, they've got to find something else to help them click defensively. Am I right?
Oh yeah, I mean they, like, most times if you tell me you're going to hold Dallas to 20 points, I'd like to think we have a great chance to win, which we did. But even for our tiebreaker in our NFL league, I chose my usual fun number for the tiebreaker, thinking it was going to be a shootout because both teams can score, and neither one of them did. But yeah, Mac was the piece we needed on the line, and now I think we just tighten it up in the secondary, and obviously make less mistakes on offense. And I think Mike Williams' injury is hurting us more than I thought it would, because that guy was just, as much as it was usually 3 catches for 120 yards and 3 touchdowns was usually his stat line, or 1 catch for 8 yards. But he's explosive, and that's getting missed.
Right. And you said injury. Mike Williams, a big part of that.
Hmm.
Justin Herbert dealing with that finger from last week, but you did get Eckler back this week, and Eckler does have an okay game, but Chargers haven't found a run game. I really at all this season, and again last night they being shut down and held under. I want to say it was under 90 yards total rushing
Hmm.
by all those guys. Does the Chargers start going and visiting and trying to figure out getting somebody run game, or do you think it's more of an offensive line kind of problem?
I think I want to say more towards offensive line, because it seems like most of Eckler's stats is receiving. Like when he does well, like I actually got on my fantasy team for once, and it seemed like, I think first week, like his touchdown was the receiving touchdown, and probably had like 60, 70 yards rushing, which isn't terrible, but a lot of reception yards too. And we can't rely on that, because if they know, oh, we can stop them running, then we'll have to just stop them from catching the ball too. That's one guy shut down already right there. And Keenan Allen, if you breathe on him wrong, he's going to get hurt. So don't want to trust that option.
Right. Well, let's talk about. I said it. Khalil Mack had a really good game.
Hmm.
Came away with one more sack and one out of the 5 sacks on Dak Prescott. Prescott still goes 21 of 30 for 272. He was sacked 5 times, but he also rushed the ball for 40 yards, and with excluding that 19-yard touchdown to put the Cowboys on the board. They got CeeDee Lamb finally involved. Uh, it looks like it was a great play calling uh, night for Mike McCarthy. Do you think him having the play calls is a big difference this year? Because the other story that was happening yesterday and even Sunday being brought up, it was former offensive coordinator going against coach with Kellen Moore, who is the new OC there in LA, taking on his former coach and Mike McCarthy. Do you think both guys, could you call that a tie with with how this game went down?
I think so, because so like that was one of their biggest plays, was a blown defensive play when Pollard broke that tackle and it looked like NFL blitz where he got spun around and then suddenly he's back on his feet and runs another 60 yards. But that was that play, and near the end when I think it was Cooks who had that 15-yard, just great route, great catch, perfect throw. I mean, I couldn't think of anything else we could have done to stop that other than PI, but and hope to get away with it like some teams do. But
yeah, Dak Prescott has not looked super impressive over the last few, but he did look a lot better. He's still, for me, he's still middle of the road kind of quarterback, if that. So it doesn't get any easier for you, sir, as your team moves and heads out to the Midwest, takes on Kansas City on Sunday. What can we look forward to that one?
Probably a lot of points, not enough on our end. But honestly, like I've said, like the Chargers, they are good, but they don't know they are. Just same with Dallas also, and I think Bengals and Bills are two other teams also. But I didn't pick Chargers to win, but if they do, I wouldn't be surprised either. Because Kansas City is Kansas City.
Yeah, and 100% because, and we'll talk about it once we get to the power rankings a little bit later. I had somebody comment on our power rankings here on the R&R Sports Report Facebook page when we posted them earlier. Is it seems like Kansas City is playing almost down towards their opponent, but they'll get to the point of, they'll rack up the point, but they almost play the mindset of this team is not so good, so we're just going to kind of do mediocre things to get by to get the win.
Yeah, like other than the Bears, but like Jacksonville, they eke that out. I think Detroit is that good. So that was just a great game too to start the year off. But yeah, I think Tyreek Hill is still missed for them, even though they won a Super Bowl without him. I think he's still a guy that benefited them a ton. And I don't think it's Taylor Swift causing this either.
No, it's not the Taylor Swift part of it, but I agree with you 100%. Detroit has looked quite well in there, and I get to watch it firsthand as we see Detroit come to Baltimore this weekend, and it being the Fox game of the week. So it'll be an interesting game watching the Lions in Baltimore. So it'll be crazy. We'll get to more of that. Let's talk and switch gears here for a few minutes. Let's talk a little bit about baseball. And you and I have discussed this a little bit, but this is not the four teams that we should be seeing in this playoffs. Maybe the Astros, I think, maybe the Rangers, but we're missing the top four teams this year in the playoffs, in the Baltimore Orioles, the Tampa Bay Rays, Atlanta, and the Dodgers, all getting ousted quickly. Your thoughts on those four teams not making the playoffs in this next round here?
As surprising as it is, like thinking back in other sports too, like I want to go back to, I think, the Tampa Lightning. They set almost a record for wins in a season in NHL, then they get booted in the first round. I think sometimes when teams are so good in a year that the last 2 or 3 weeks they just get the job done. Like let's say the Braves are playing against the Nationals there at the end, and yes, they might have won 8-0, but the Nationals might have threw out their AAA rising star out that game to see how he is, and they're not playing the elite competition because they made it. They're first round bye, they're fine and dandy, and they don't have that killer instinct anymore. While Arizona and Philly, they had to fight till the end. Texas and Houston also, they could have been out the last day of the season. Mariners were, but either one of those teams could have been out of it too. So they're still in it because they never had to put their foot on the brake at all. It was always, we have to play, we have to win. And I think that mindset carried over.
That AL West was crazy the entire last month. We talked about it. Randy we talked about the last 10 games with the Mariners being, it was 7 against the Rangers and 3 against the
Hmm.
Stros and what they had to do. With that division, it just came up that it was one game short. I couldn't even buy in with the Rangers 100%. But now you look at them here in the ALCS, they're leading the Astros 2-0 with tonight being an off night. Is this team for real to the point that they move on and they boot the Astros out of being a team uh, that was going to make it to the playoffs
I think
consistently?
I think so, because even when Degrom went down, I was like, well, they can still do this because yes, Degrom's awesome, but their whole team is. But then Scherzer was afraid he was going to go out. It's like, well, they're toast. It's like, come on, Mariners, let's get by the Rangers at least. But they still stuck it out. Now Scherzer's going to pitch again, and he pitched last night, didn't he?
I don't remember. I don't remember who pitched last night.
Or he's going to pitch next. But yeah, I think they're legit for sure. If their bullpen, that was their Achilles heel all season. If they can, well, their bats can, even if they get a 9-run lead, they don't need a bullpen, I guess, but make it a little easier for them. But I
Uh,
think they're legit.
It's tomorrow night. It's going to be Christian Javier for the Astros taking on Matt Scherzer. Is that pitching matchup for tomorrow night? It should be a great game.
Hmm.
Again, they lead this one 2-0 already. Uh, and now the Phillies right now top of the fifth. Uh, Nola
Yeah, I got it on
has
now
the
too.
Phillies, has them leading 2-0 right now. So um, out of the four remaining, well, let's before we get to the picks, let's go back to ALDS and go back to wild card. And I want your opinion on this because you look at the ALDS and they only had two series that went over by 2 games. So all of the games were done in a best of 5. You look at the
Hmm.
wild card, all of the series but one were done in 2 games. Or
Hmm.
and so we noticed that over the last few years, playoffs have gotten longer. You know, I remember when Mr. October, Reggie Jackson, and the World Series was the first week of October, and then everything was done. Now we're falling in, we're going to be done 1st November. My opinion on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I know Randy disagrees with me, and I've talked to others that disagree about this with me. But you look at back to those wild card games of guys that were or teams that were 2 wins and they were done. That doesn't really even get them motivated to going. You said it really quick there a minute ago. Texas had their foot on the gas the entire time because they had to get into
Hmm.
the playoffs. Arizona, same way. They had to keep their foot on the gas to keep going. Some of these other teams taking a step back a little bit and then get knocked out. Do you feel, and would you agree that if you changed all of the series, and I am a proponent of this, change them all to best of 7 games on all of them? I'm talking wild card, championship series, divisional, and then also into the World Series. I think they all need to be best of sevens.
I gotta agree too, actually, because I love it for the NBA. Because I think for the NBA, it's very rare to like an eight seed will beat a 1 seed every once in a while, but you don't see them go to the finals, except for the Heat. But it wasn't at the COVID year though. But I think it always the best always comes to the top out of the best of 7. And like football, obviously, it's too brutal to do that many games. But even like for bowling at times for the PBA and the majors, you see a lot of the same people to the on top because they bowl 24 games of match play. The best is going to win. But if you like for the best of if they just do the top 16 and start from there, 1 seed loses so many times out of the first match because it's 3 games. That's it. Like it could
Yeah.
be like the Braves could have lost the first 2 games and then won the next 4. We never know, but that's what we're dealing with now.
Well, yeah, this is why we say, Tampa Bay 99 wins, Atlanta, or excuse me, LA 100 wins, 104 wins for Atlanta. We already know that it's gotten pushed back, and I don't want it to sound like the NBA, but at least with baseball, we're listening. We play, 3 games within about 4 days because, a travel day. And so it's not like the NBA. We're going to play 1 game here and then the next day, it's like 3 days later you're playing. At least these guys can get in some kind of rhythm. Baseball is all about rhythm.
Yeah.
Basketball is about nobody playing defense. Don't get me started on NBA. I hate it. But for baseball, it's all about keeping the rhythm. You look at Nick Castellanos and what that dude is doing right now for the Philadelphia Phillies over the last few days has been crazy. He now is in the same category as Reggie Jackson, is having 5 home runs in like this first 5 or 6 at bats. You've got to get into that rhythm. And I think in a 3-game set, a 5-game set, there is no rhythm made, especially when you were expecting to see 100-win Baltimore team, 100-win Dodger team, 104-win Braves team. These are the teams we should have been talking about, especially the way they played all year. And I'm not downing on anybody, but the way that the Baltimore Orioles proved this year that they could play ball and then get knocked out after just a couple of games, it's almost heart-wrenching, because you're excited. Could this be the year they get there? I understand once you get to ALCS, then that's when things should get really intense in there. But I would like to see it being, all the way across and be consistent where these teams could be together.
Yeah, same here. Because even when it was just the one wild card team, I think one of the years that when Boston won, I believe they were down 0-2 against the Angels, then they won the next 3, and suddenly they're in the World Series and winning it. Like even if it's best of 5, could make all the difference for the first round too.
And this is a good point. I've got it up here. Chris Picard, one of our buddies that helps us out with the NFL Power Rankings. We're talking a little baseball. He says, I was listening to a radio show that talked about buying a baseball. Do we really have an advantage to taking a week off in baseball? I'm going to say no. And it goes right back to what we just said a minute ago. Baseball is all about keeping a rhythm and keeping up and what they're doing. It's like some of the dominant pitchers now. If they can stay and they have that routine of, even though you pitch 7 innings, usually you have a light day the next day, you have another light day, an off day where you're just before pitching again. It is a consistency thing. Same with, giving 1 day off for somebody to get out there and play. Right now, if I was picking in a league and playing in a strategic league and fantasy money, give me Nick Castellanos. He's out there all the time playing. He is in such a rhythm right now. Same with Corbin Carroll. I mean, you talk about Corbin with the Diamondbacks. What this dude has done when he's gotten on the bases and running and putting the game in motion, you need those guys to be in a consistent motivation and a consistent schedule, and they need to keep it just the same as almost the same as what we would do for the regular season. So 4-game sets, let's make it playoffs or all 7-game sets.
Yeah, or even wait. I think the only benefit a week off is if you were one of the teams like the Diamondbacks or the Rangers who wanted to rest their pitchers a little bit, but that's about it. Like other than that, like I said, like it's all about the rhythm in baseball. Be like if benching your hot goalie in the NHL, it's like sweet, stopping everything. Let's give him a day off, and suddenly you lose the next 3 games because everything got out of whack.
Yeah. Again, welcome Robert Taylor, another guy that comes in, does our power rankings. And yes, Taylor, is Chris Picard the best power ranking guy? We'll see. We'll talk about it a little bit later. So with that being said, sir, I'm going to put you in the hot seat. Right now, we're down to 4 teams.
Mm-hmm.
Rangers are leading 2-0. Right now, Philly is moving that direction to take a 2-0 lead. Who do we see in the World Series next week?
Like I joked with Randy and said, since I picked Atlanta and Baltimore, it's probably going to be Arizona and Cleveland or Minnesota. So I want to stick with Arizona now, just because I didn't think they'd win a game. Yeah, but Phillies are kind of changing my mind on that because they're just disgusting right now. And I also think the Rangers are going to get it. I think they've just, as hot as they are, they won 7 straight already. If they lose one more or lose a game, that might just be like a 3-2 nail biter or something, but then win the next couple after that. I wouldn't be surprised if they win it all too, because they are just on fire at the perfect time.
As much as the Rangers have been hot watching them play against the Mariners, you know that Astros team's going to have to, it's going to come back and at least get one game. I think you're exactly right. If the Rangers end up coming and taking and getting a game next, and I'm looking here, like I said, Javier's taking on Matt Scherzer tomorrow in Texas. If Scherzer can come out and shut down that offense, it's going to be awful tough for those guys to come back. Probable starters on Thursday. It'll be an off day for the Phillies and them, but game 3, they still haven't decided on the Philly starter, but it will be Brandon Pfaadt will be pitching in that one. So it could easily come down. I like the way Phillies are playing. I think it's going to be Texas and Philly, and I think both of them are just extremely hot right now, and I'm excited to see where this goes over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, I know. I didn't even get to watch much of the first round, so
Because it was over. It was over. It was not the best of 7. MLB. Yeah. Let's go. We need to make all these best of 7s. And I know all the doubters are going to say, no, that's not how it should work.
I know they say the format is wrong too, but I think at the same time, let's say all those teams swept all those games, then they'd say, why even have the other teams in the playoff? They're going to get swept.
Yeah, if we're going to talk getting things on the right schedule, let's talk NBA then, and let's get those guys where we're not playing every 4 days, 5 days, and 81 games.
Even the WNBA was like that.
Yeah, I think 162. I know it's a much 162, but you know what? Baseball players know that they are guaranteed this much, but basketball players don't get me started. They don't play defense. They don't play. I would rather watch hockey and golf all the time than watch NBA basketball. So let's turn our attention. We're going to go a little bit of local college football for a couple here. And let's talk about Idaho, Montana, Big Sky matchup. It was a number 2 against a number 3 this past week. And the Idaho Vandals come up just a short against Montana and lose the Little Brown Stein back to Montana. Did Jason Eck come out of that ball game a little bit slow on his play calling and what he was expecting that offense to do?
Yeah, they just couldn't get anything together. But at the same time, I think Montana had a game plan in the first half. Second half, I don't know what their game plan was, because I didn't mind it because Idaho was coming back. But I think they had a plan of attack. It was working. And then when Idaho finally figured it out, I think it was just a little too late, because even though we had a chance, Montana was just, they were playing more of their game than Idaho was able to. And I don't know if it's maybe because Idaho knew they were on ESPN for once, because I didn't even realize it was until the day of. But it was cool to actually be able to watch them. But they just, out the gate, they seemed off, and it just wasn't enough time to recuperate.
And then that's the big thing. They come out slow, and we talk about tempo all the time. hence what we just said about baseball. You got to find the rhythm. These guys came out extremely slow, and Jason Ecke even talked about they needed to come out from a little bit quicker tempo and all that. Idaho gets down 20-0 before finally the last drive in the first half. A lot quicker tempo by Coach Eck and Gio. What he is doing with this team offensively, he is really good. But then you listen to Eck, and he said, "Okay, we're going to run the ball, get a little bit better tempo going," and he still waited too long in the third quarter before he got the tempo going. It was all it felt like it was almost right at the end of the third, first of the fourth, when he finally got those guys just quick to the offense, up tempo. Let's go, let's go, let's go. With that, Idaho now drops down to third in the FCS, or excuse me, and third in Big Sky, but now has dropped down to eighth in the FCS, where they were sitting third in FCS.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's just rare to talk good things about Idaho football still, but like, yeah, this team's turned around great, and they've been a blast to watch when able to see them. And I think Montana, they've been there more, and I think they were just a little more ready for a big game than Idaho has, because obviously last year was the start for us, but it'd been years before we can even get excited for any sort of football game. So
Idaho does have the bye week, but let's talk about Giovanni McCoy, who was the Jerry Rice recipient for Freshman of the Year. He still put up some great numbers in that game. 26 of 37 for 336, 2 touchdowns, but the 2 big kickers were the 2 interceptions that he did throw. Really, no carries of the football. He I the way they categorize it, he had 15 rushes for just 8 yards. One thing, I don't know if it was the Montana scheme defense wise, but there didn't seem to be very many play calls with his number running the ball.
I think they just made him uncomfortable too, because he can break one off every once in a while, but he never really had the chance. And I think that might have changed their game plan a bit too. Like, well, if he can't scramble it right now and he can, I don't know if we're going to really trust to just call his number and see what can happen.
Right, and that was this big thing. McCoy had 3 takeaways, 2 interceptions, 1 fumble for a loss, and so we preach it all the time. You got to hold on to the football if you want this to succeed in this game, especially Big Sky FCS, where it's a totally different playoff scenario than what we're used to in FBS football. So
It's the way it should be, though.
I kind of agree. I agree with you 100%. Let's talk about the other implosions this week, and I want your opinion. Which one is the greater implosion? We'll talk about both games, but before we dive into the stats, which one right off the cusp was it? Was it Colorado losing a 29-point lead, or was it Washington State coming out scoring first and then going ice cold in their ball game?
I think Colorado for sure. Like, they've had the big stage all season, deserved or not. And like watching it, I was like, oh, they're already up 29-0. And we were just playing games and then getting ready for bed. And I look up and was like, wait, Stanford is in striking distance. Stanford tied the game. We're in overtime. And then I fell asleep for the second overtime. So Deion Sanders had a point. The game was on too late.
Well, you said it. They've been on that big stage the entire year, back-to-back weeks on the what is it, big noon kickoff for a home game and an away game. Then they head over to ESPN for one game, back to a late Fox game. I know it's all about prime time and what Prime is doing and how he dismantled this, but is this starting to be way too much overhype?
It's getting there. Like the Oregon game, I expected, because Oregon's Oregon. I think the Oregon UW game was the Pac-12 championship game already to me, and like TCU, I thought it was a little. I think they just had some carryover from last year, giving them a little bit of love for the ranking, but I don't think that was deserved. And
I'm gonna
Nebraska's Nebraska,
right.
and it's just they're beating who they should, but then when they should have beat somebody, they just forgot how to play football.
Now I'm going to add this in here. Mike Tatko, buddy of the show, he's been on many times. I'm going to add this. He says, or Boise State 30-10, leading with 5 minutes to go, and then losing. I know it wasn't one of our choices, but it could easily get there. I didn't watch any of this game, but I did see highlights on the Scott Van Pelt show as bad beats,
I was
as
on
they
that.
do cover the spread, the over under. That's got to be a heartbreaking loss for Boise State too.
Yeah, Teresa probably celebrates it though, since she went to U of I. So you can't talk about Boise State in a positive way in this house.
Yeah. Well, and Boise State, what they have done
She just
in the
messaged me. BSU sucks.
well, it does happen, but BSU has played well. I mean, but you look at who Colorado State has played, and we'll talk about this now. He's got me up here. Boise State Gently has 212 yards rushing, and then you let a team go and score 31 points in the second half. It was 17-0 at halftime in that ball game, and then you let these guys just go totally crazy. And I'm looking at the stat line right now. Braden Fowler Nicholas ends up going. Nichols C goes 30-52 for 359 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception in that ball game, and to Torrey Horton, 130 yards. Where's the defense for this Boise State team? You look there, Ashton Genty, 31 carries, 212 yards, 3 touchdowns. He could be my college player of the game, and I didn't even watch.
They must watch NBA also and get their tips from defense there.
And welcome, Kevin Driscoll. No, Bad Beats is not me wearing the red hat. This bleeds red all the time. You've got Doof, who is a Lewiston grad. Kevin Driscoll, the principal for Lewiston High School. We'll talk about the Lewiston soccer girls here in a few minutes. Also, we'll get to our picks with Lewiston here shortly. Beautiful. Have you drove by? We talk about Lewiston for a second. Have you driven by and seen the new statue they put up? I believe it was put up yesterday. It looks very, very nice.
I haven't seen it yet. I just saw the Facebook post, but it looks pretty awesome. Looks a lot better than that boat mess that's across the river, whatever that is still.
Yeah, we better shout out Highland Huskies there to both Tatko and Driscoll. They from up on the here. Listen, pictures of me. What I wear purple. It is purple of the Baltimore Ravens, but I do have one picture from Idaho State cross country a few years ago. Yes, I was wearing a Bengal shirt. I will not deny that, but there it is. So with that being said, let's go over. I want you to. We're going to talk a little bit. We did say at 29 points lead. Josh Carty hits the big one, the overtime, 3rd and goal, and Prime goes for it. 3rd and goal from the 2-yard line, and you throw a pass. I'm sorry. As much as Shedeur Sanders has been leading the nation in throwing the ball, you've got 2 downs there. Am I wrong by thinking you run the ball all 4 downs?
I'll maybe even do a play action on 1st down or something, just to get them on their heels a little bit. But yeah, it's just very much Patriots Seahawks Super Bowl vibe there. You can not nearly as drastic at the end, but
I'm saying though, this is a huge thing. I mean, you've got a guy that is quite well. Why not get Travis Hunter on a fly sweep or something? Get that guy involved, or just pound it. Let Sanders get under center and take 2 1-yard gains to get in the end zone. I didn't understand the pass, and like you said, see, it's all back to the Seahawks game and Seahawks Patriots game. So
I think it's a
Washington,
lot of people wanting to get a highlight anymore too. It's not as sexy to run the ball in with everyone surrounding you to drag you in, but if you do a nice little trick play for 2 yards and an amazing catch, it's going to be played more than just pounding it in, and it gets
and,
annoying. I think you see
yeah,
more in college than anything else.
exactly. And yes, I am for the kids. You know that, Driscoll. So then we turn our attention then to Washington State. So their implosion, they come out and score quickly. First drive, 11 plays, 75 yards, right at 5 minutes, a 1-yard rushing touchdown by Watson. And then all of a sudden, it goes turnover on downs, interception, punt, 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 interception, fumble, downs, punt, downs. I understand the coaching of what's going on up at the Palouse, but we're talking about an Arizona team that is not one of the better Arizona teams. Do you agree with some of the play calling?
I didn't see much of it because once I saw what the score was, I think when it was 17-6, it's like, oh, I'll wait till they get a little tighter and I'll pay a little more attention, and it never got tighter. From the sound of
No.
it, they couldn't execute anything. From the friends that I talked to that went to the game, it was just a mess. Like they came in not ready, other than the opening drive, and everything was just, what do we do?
Yeah. And now Arizona's 4-3 in the Pac-12, 2-2 in league. So it's going to be very interesting to see where the Cougars go over the next couple of weeks and how do they change their style. It doesn't get easier for the Cougars this week. They travel to Eugene to take on the Oregon Ducks. That, sir, is a whole nother thing, and I'm not taking away from our buddy Kevin Nolette that listens to the show too. But did Coach Lanning make some stupid play calls and leave points on the ground in that Washington Oregon game?
Yeah, I picked UW to win, but when I was watching it, like, yes, you're Oregon, you can score a lot, but in this high profile of a game, take the points, especially near the end of the half. Yes, you would have been down one instead of being up by 2 or 3, but take those points because that's like 9 points they left in the red zone by not going for it.
Yep. Go into it, and then I understand being aggressive. It's a little bit different
Schwarber
being.
just killed one.
I miss it. 109 miles an hour, 427 feet. Phillies now lead 3-0 over the Diamondbacks, but it's a different play call than what I suggested with the third down and goal from the 2 compared to your fourth down and 1 from about the 15 to 20. Take those points, especially
Mm-hmm.
against a team that is unbelievable and what they can do at any time, especially with Penix Jr. and what he is capable of with his feet.
Yeah, I was watching. I had the game on my phone while I was driving home, and Billy was giving me the commentary, and I said, Oregon goes for it so much on fourth down. They're going to need this field goal to win. You don't use your kicker at all. I don't have any faith they're going to make it. And sure enough, game's on the line. They actually need to use their kicker, and he misses.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I'm going to ask you this question just because I'm not a huge Oregon fan. I will pick Oregon more than I pick Washington. We'll leave it at that. How much of this was because of those ugly mint chocolate chip uniforms?
yeah, it looked like the Vice golf balls. That's what they looked like too.
I thought of that. Denise even made the comment and said, "Oh my God, those are so ugly. Why aren't they wearing their yellows or their greens?" I love the helmets. Not so much a fan of the jerseys, though.
Yeah, they were. I like seeing their variety, but that one was a miss.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to ask you a very serious question with this, and with these two teams, and it was close most of the game. With the Ducks losing, do we think this is a huge mishap for Bo Nix and the Heisman? Does his name get out of the Heisman race? Because we know Nix and Michael Penix Jr. were at the top of the list for the Heisman,
Hmm.
even though this game was extremely close. And in this game, myself, I don't think it hurts either one. I think Oregon has to win out for him to keep that chance in there.
Yeah,
But does now Michael Penix have a hence leg or a foot up in the Heisman?
I think so. I think uh, he's the front runner for it to me. Dude, just watching him, he just seems a step above so many other quarterbacks in college right now. And Nix is really good, and I don't think he's to blame at all for the loss. Like if he would have had like a game ruining interception or anything, or like the pass was a questionable play call even too, but I don't put it all on him either. On fourth down near the end of the game there to get UW the ball back. Is I think if both teams went out, if Bo Nix wanted over him, I wouldn't be surprised either because he's just that good. And his one loss this year could have been the guy who beat him. And if he just puts up bigger numbers and throttles, then it's still a coin flip.
Yeah, I have to agree. I mean, what other name do you throw out there besides Caleb Williams in the whole talk about uh, Heisman Trophy? I mean, other than maybe Harrison at Ohio State receiving the ball. I mean,
And I think
I don't
Williams
know.
kind of hurt his own stock a little bit too with his game against Notre Dame. That was out of character for him, but such as football.
Yeah, so such as football right now, and pulling up, looking right now, the current Heisman watch folks, and leading is Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, Bo Nix, Dylan Gabriel from Oklahoma, and Jordan Travis out of Florida State. Florida State's been playing quite well also, so it'll
Yeah,
be
they're
interesting to
they're
see
really
what they
good.
do. All right, we're going to turn our topic. We'll come back to college when we do our picks here in a few minutes. But let's talk about our weekly awards for NFL, sir. And you and I don't think you noticed this. I know I sent you the notes, but both of us take Rams as our
Yeah,
offensive player. Who do you have this week?
I chose Cooper Cup because he came back from missing the first 4 weeks of the year, and you'd have thought he played the first 4 weeks of the year. He's just a stud.
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you. He had that big 49-yard reception, crazy catch for that. I'm gonna take the running back, and even though he is now questionable for this upcoming week, but Kyron Williams, he looked really good. 20 carries, 158, with also another touchdown in that one. It is an unbelievable turn of events for this team now. Can we say that they are going to make it interesting in the standings in the West?
I think so. I'm pretty sure they'll make the playoffs. I don't think they'll quite catch the Niners, but they'll make some noise for sure. Like if they win a game in the playoffs, I wouldn't be shocked either. They're back to the form, not quite Super Bowl form, and they won it, but last year didn't make any sense with that team to me. So I
Yeah,
think they're getting back into it.
I think San Francisco runs away with that division. I know I caught some flack with my picks and Randy's picks for this last week. Both of us took Cincinnati over Seattle. Cincinnati is growing, getting a lot better. Joe Burrows looks a lot better. Now you got the Seahawks 3-2, the Rams 3-3. Um, I think Arizona is in the cell. If you read our power rankings, I write for the Cardinals. I really think the Cardinals are done as far now. I think they become sellers quick, and I think they keep Murray off the table for a while and let him just totally rehab. So,
Yeah.
and yes, and I agree, Robert. Seattle move the ball will just had red zones, just along with everybody else has had red zone issues, sir. You look at Arizona, you look at Baltimore, you look at Philadelphia. Might be the only one that hasn't, except for this week, they struggled in the red zone. But uh, everybody has that short game has gotten to be a tough thing, and I think it's because of the defenses now. A lot of the defensive have just gotten better. I mean, unbelievable. My defensive player of the week, I'm going to take Jordan Hicks. 10 tackles, an iron interception for a touchdown, pick six. What that dude, Minnesota is struggling so much. It was nice to see a highlight with him just because Minnesota was one of my picks. I got different than Randy. So I extended my lead in our picks together. But you, sir, took one of Randy's players, and I can't wait to hear your explanation on this one.
Yeah, I'd went Tony Adams. His pick was humongous, I think, for the team. It's like, yeah, it might not have been like the overall greatest of the week, but I think, like, I'm not a huge Jets fan. I was excited to see what they would do this year, and I'm not a Rodgers fan either, but I wanted to see what would happen. And I think the team, being 3-3 now, is humongous, and I think that interception is what could turn their season around altogether. To me, it was against, I think, the Phillies number 2 behind San Fran to me, but Philly's not fake at all. They're a great team, and I think that they Jets just flat out beat them, and that was the play that turned everything around.
Yeah, it was a huge 45-yard return. So Adams 7 tackles in that one. But yeah, I think you're right. It is a play that changes things around. So I'm going to ask you a question. Randy put it in the notes, and I know it's a little bit farther down, but I'm going to ask you, how impressed are you to see Aaron Rodgers already out and throwing the ball? Is this just a little bit
Yeah,
of
with nothing on his foot.
a little tease? Is this what it is, or is the injury worse than what we think, or not as bad as what we think?
I think, uh, like, I still don't expect to see him, but it's almost like when Tiger posted that video of just one swing, and it's probably like a 7 iron on the driving range, but it got everyone all kinds of excited, and he was still nowhere near ready to come back. But I think, like, I have no idea how long he was out there or anything. I don't know if that was even said, but just the fact he was bouncing around and throwing the balls, like, is this the CGI? What's going on?
Robert Taylor brings up, he says, when are we going to talk some Chiefs and their offensive issues? Yes, they still at the top of the AFC league. Is yearly Arrowhead Invitational happening? We talked a little bit about your Chiefs, sir. The Chargers are going into Arrowhead this week. It is going to be an interesting game. It depends on if Austin Eckler can get running the ball, but I like the comment that was made, and I cannot find it. Give me a second here and see if I can find it really fast. And it was one of our. Let me get there. There it is. This is our write up for the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'm gonna pull it up where we can all see it here, and I'm gonna share the screen. And this was written by one of our buddies, Mr. Chris Picard, about Kansas City. It says a lateral early in this game makes me think the Kansas City team is playing around with teams they don't respect. They aren't running up the score, but they aren't showing all of their cards either. It will be interesting to see if they take the Chargers seriously this week. Do you think, and we talked about it, do we think that is the thing that happens?
That makes sense. I think it sounds silly that teams would do that, but if you're that good, then why show everything? I remember, just stuck in my mind one time, I think is one of the years the Broncos won the Super Bowl with Elway. They got smoked in like week 16 or 17. might have even been against the Packers, who they played in the Super Bowl. Like, we're not going to show everything because we know we might have to play them again, and they're already getting a first round bye. So why show our cards? And even I think the Patriots too against the Giants when they went 16-0 that last game, like they kind of had to show everything that they had, and suddenly they go against the Giants again, and now they can't even score. So it would make sense.
Yeah, I'm going to put these two up here. Robert Taylor also says Seattle moved the ball at will, just had red zone issues. Still not impressed when Cincinnati, Joe Burrows just comes back. Jamar Chase finally gets the ball. And Chris also said Seattle was one DK Metcalf quit play away from winning last week. Listen, you play prima donnas like DK Metcalf, and you've got guys that cry about not getting the ball. I am not the biggest DK Metcalf fan. You play every game. You play every down. You run the ball. You get there. I'm throwing this out there, and I'm probably gonna tick off a few players and a few people. But if you want me to take the idea between taking DK Metcalf, Jamar Chase, and Cooper Kupp, you know where I'm going to go every time? I'm going Cooper Kupp. You don't see him yelling at officials. You don't see him pouting about every play, and you don't see him ever stop running a route whatsoever. And until those guys finally figure out that, and DK finally figures out that it's not all about him every time, that team's going to struggle, and he's going to struggle putting up the numbers he thinks he should.
Like Larry Fitzgerald to me, I think even when he was in college, I think he might have even been a team record or some record for touchdown catches. And when he caught that ball that set the record, he gave it to the referee like it was just any old play. He wasn't about to hoot and holler and, hey, look at me. It's like, he's in college and he's doing that already. Mm-hmm. Just, he's there to play to win. And if it doesn't happen, you tried.
Exactly.
Wasn't going to blame anybody.
Exactly. You are watching the R&R Sports Report. We are not at the station. We should be back in the station next week. Randy is out this week. My buddy David Dufenberg sitting in for Randy. And dude, I'm excited for this next part. We'll get back to some more college, high school, and all that here in a minute. But you and I are going to do and have a little fun. We're going to do our sports-related draft. And we each have our first pick in, and then we're going to, I guess, go random off for who our other picks are. Stick around. Let's get some votes from our people. I was going to go a little bit differently with what Randy and I was talking about. And yes, okay. I agree, Robert Taylor. That's a good defensive pick of the week. Nick Bolton. He did quite well. Watching a game. Tell me if you watched this game. Did you watch the Vanderbilt Georgia game at all?
It was one of the games on my quad box I had going on.
Yeah, I had my quad going up. I ended up making it the main game for a long time. But listen, some of these names of players is just getting outrageous. And so I had to laugh about it. Did you know that Ra Thomas was going up against Gumbo Gaskins this weekend?
Oh, good old Gumbo Gaskins.
Yes, Gumbo Gaskins. I'm thinking, where are these names coming from? So we threw it out there. After I knew Randy was going to be here, I shot you the message. I said, all right, here's where we're going. We're going to do the funniest names in sports. The athletes with the funniest names. And it was kind of based off that. Ra going against Gumbo. And with that being said, there are so many names and a lot of different ones, kind of like Milton Bradley. Isn't that a board company of
board game
sort?
company?
We've got so many others. Cocoa Crisp, isn't that a box cereal of some sort?
I prefer Cocoa Crisp. I think that's the great value version is Cocoa Crisp.
The great value. So with that being said, I picked the topic. You, sir, have the first pick. And I laugh because it was the same one I would have went with too. So
like
we're not at the station. We're not at the station tonight, so I think we can get away with it a little bit.
And I had to go with funny sounding, to pronounce and also just flat out funny. So of course, number one pick is Dick Trickle, NASCAR legend.
Dick Trickle, the NASCAR legend, he just passed away. I want to say in 2013, so almost 10 years ago. But
Yeah,
unbelievable race car driver and what he did, and he was a hard racer back then.
yeah. I remember watching with my grandma and being that young. I was like, that's his actual name.
Well, you died laughing. I was starting to explain it to a couple of the ladies I was working with. They were asking me what I was working on. And I said, getting ready to do our drafting names. And the first guy I know, he's going to go off the board. And I had to literally pull up a picture of him in his race car showing him that this guy actually did exist. Yes, Dick Trickle is one of those all-time funniest names. I'm going to go with another Richard. And I'm going to go Richard William Duncan Dick Pound. Yes,
Good old
they called
Dick
him
Pound.
Dick Pound. He was a Canadian swimmer, champion. Also, is hugely predominant spokesman for the ethics of sports. Go figure. A guy named Dick Pound was very ethical in the sports, but he's more noticed for a few other things. He was the first president of the World Anti-Doping Agency, and then he was also the vice president of the International Olympic Committee. Good old
Oh,
Dick Pound.
of course he was.
All right, sir. Who is your next funny name?
I had to go with one just because you feel bad for announcers having to say a mouthful. So I had to pick Chris Fuamatu Mafala.
Oh my!
He probably ran a few touchdowns in against the Ravens, but just having to say, handed the ball off to Fuamatu Mafala, and his first name's Chris. So it's just always fun to hear that.
I can't even spell that one. Fua, F-U. Yeah, pretty much F-U, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
Like the Olympics, some names you're like, that poor Bob Costas has to say that name.
oh,
Is it
yes.
even right?
Is it right? Is it not right? So I'm going to go with a guy, and I went with a lot of Olympic people. And this guy, I mean, there was other ones that were funny, but I'm going to go with a guy that was an Olympic person in uh, Japan. And I'm trying to remember which sport he did.
I think I saw
And
this one too.
And I am going with the Chinese trampoline gymnast. He was an Olympic champion, 4-time medalist, winning gold in London, silver at Rio, and Tokyo. I'm going with the gymnast Dong Dong.
Good old Dong Dong.
He ended up winning the bronze in 2020 and in Tokyo, and also in Beijing. So he is my second pick in our draft related. How about your third?
I had to go more current for this one too because it's in the name. Haha, Clinton Dix. It's just you got to laugh at the start, and of course the end's just as funny too. And
And I think what is Haha's first name? I'm trying to remember. Is
I
not.
remember looking it up. I think it starts with HA, and someone couldn't pronounce it, so they just called him Haha. But it was always all the time. It's like, ha, Clinton Dix.
You know that Haley is going to probably give you that vote because you taking a former Green Bay Packer. I mean, I think that's probably brownie points, sir.
I believe it. Well, she took the picks from me this week, so Ashawn Trishawn Clinton Dix.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with one that is about her age is she is between you and I in age. She was another medalist. I don't know if you saw this one. This one was a little bit farther down some people's list, but I went for funny factor because you and I talked about that you were going to go Dick Trickle, and I thought, yep, I know I'm just going to stay funny because there's so many other names. Rusty Coons was one. I almost thought about that, but I'm going to go with another Olympic legend, and she was a legend in volleyball for Japan. She won bronze in the 2012 Summer Olympics. She was on the 28 and the 24 Summer Olympics, and that is Yoshi Takeshita.
Oh yeah.
Miss, Miss Takeshita. Um, I just don't understand. And there's also a Japanese wrestler. Now I know Eric or Harry would correct me right away because he knows some of his wrestlers and Japanese wrestlers, but I think that is a very common last name in Japan. Takeshita.
Yeah.
Takeshita. But it's just funny the way it is spelled. There was so many on this list we could have went with, but yeah,
even good old Peekaboo Street.
Yeah, Peekaboo. We didn't even hit half of them. You've got
like Taco Fall.
Well,
like 7'5".
Well, Rock. What about Rock Yasin or Bumper Pool? Do you remember Bumper Pool?
Oh yeah,
for Arkansas many years ago. You got him,
Josh Booty or whatever from USC.
Well, even how about Kool-Aid McKinstry? I mean,
yeah, Kool-Aid.
There's so many teams, but what set it off for me was the whole Gumbo Gaskin on Raw Thomas this weekend. So it just hilarious. So let us know who wins it in the chat. Doof went with the legend race car driver Dick Trickle. He also went with Chris Fumatu Mahafala. Did I say that right?
I think so.
And then he also goes with haha Clinton Dix. For me, I had to go just as funny. I'm going Dick Pound, Dong Dong, and Yoshi Takeshita. So let us know in the picks. And look at that. You've already got a vote. Chris Picard, just because you haha in an auto win. And so we will keep going with that.
Bunch of grown-ups around here.
Yeah. we all act like 2 or 3 years old. What's new. Let's get it really quick. Some high school scores from last week. Lewiston knocked off Lake City 22-6. Clarkson comes away with a hard-fought win 34-27 against Pullman. Sir, you weren't at the game. Did you hear me announce the game? I had people tell me they could hear me all the way up in the Clarkson Heights listening to the game from me just announcing it.
We had Randy up here, so we're probably drowning you out.
Yeah, it was a great game, heavyweight battle between those guys. Carter Steinwan had some impressive passes in that one, and then also Mr. DeSarno, JJ DeSarno, had almost 200 yards rushing. Great game, back and forth. Just one score, the next guy scored, but it was very good. Soton also knocks off Morton White Pass 42-8 in probably the most lopsided win I have ever seen in high school football. Pomeroy, our buddy, Richie Vecchio's son, plays for Pomeroy. Pomeroy comes away with a win. Did you hear the score on this one, sir?
I did. Randy told me the first quarter score.
First
quarter?
First quarter score was 44-0. Pomeroy knocks off Tico Rosalia 90-0. 90-0. I know Richie messaged me, said that Vinny had 2 touchdown passes and I want to say 2 running too. So unbelievable game, that one. Coeur d'Alene knocks off Post Falls 34-21. Kendrick continues to be the team to beat in Idaho football, knocking off Grace, who was second in their division. Kendrick 52-6. Lakeland upsets Timberlake 28-24. Potlatch continues their winning ways, 58-30 over Lapway. Grangeville picks up their first win of the season, 46-6, and Timberline knocks off Salmon River 42-34. I went 10-0 the last 2 weeks, so I was 20-0 the last 2 weeks coming into this week. I felt like it was a down week. I went 8-2. Randy has been consistent, 9-1, 9-1, and 9-1 over the last 3.
For the Tribune picks, I got all mine right. Didn't lose with the tiebreaker this week, though.
I have not seen. Did they post who the winner was?
Yeah, it was I had one. Like the winner had 3 losses. I think 3 people did, and I was one of like 18 who had 4 losses.
Yeah, the USC game, Washington, kind of upset a lot of people in that one. So, Driscoll was on a little bit ago. Kevin Driscoll, principal of Lewiston High School. I told him I'd talk a little bit about him. Lewiston girls wrapped up their soccer season on a couple of really heartbreaking losses. Last Tuesday, they lost in sudden death to Lake City just as they were going on the air, and lost to Lake City 3-2. So they got the chance for another berth into the state and ended up playing Centennial on Saturday and lost that one 2-0. So their season is over. Lewiston finishes the season 11-5-3, 4-2-1 on the season, but then they took home their district championship with that. So congratulations to Lewiston. They had a great season. Clarkson has been playing quite well. They took on Rogers on Tuesday and also on Thursday, and they got to play that up in the One Spokane Stadium. Sir, are you excited to go watch a game up there yet, or have you seen the stadium yet?
I've just seen pictures of it, but it looks pretty awesome.
I know I posted pictures from Clarkson playing, and not this last week, but the 2 weeks prior, playing up there. Unbelievable place. But the Clarkson Bantam girls got to play soccer up there back to back. They knocked off Rogers 8-0 last Tuesday. Rebecca Skinner had 3 goals, 7 assists. She is still adding to her total. She did the same thing on Thursday with 2 more goals with that win 2-0. And then just prior to us coming on air, we had senior night up here at Lincoln Middle School, and the Bantams knocked off East Valley. Becca Skinner again, a hat trick. She had 3 goals tonight. So we're talking having, 3. I got to count math in my head really quick. 8 goals in 3 games over the last few days. So unbelievable. She had a hat trick tonight in the first half. Sienna Newhouse also comes away with the 2 goals in her senior night as a Clarkston Bantam alum. So soccer program looking quite well, sir. Turn our attention really quick to LC news really fast before we start in on our pick'ems and go that direction. Lewis Clark Cross Country hosted their 2023 LC State Invitational. A Soton alum, Chloe Overberg, led the number 20 ranked Warriors to the best finish by the NAIA. They finished 24th. She had a time of 18.09 for 18 minutes, 9 seconds in her 5K time. The girls also finished overall 5th place. Then for the men, they were led by Gordon. I losing where I had his name. Gordon ended up finishing up with his best time of 24 minutes, 57 seconds up there in Lewiston. So a few of them, that was the last regular season matchup for LC. They will then go for the CCC championship on November 3rd in Caldwell. So volleyball happening. Lewis Clark State loses to Bushnell and Corbin over the weekend in some hard fought battles. In the Friday game against Bushnell, Warriors were able to come out with 1-set win in the third set, 25-21, but were dominated by Bushnell in that one. And then on Saturday, LC faced number 6 ranked Corbin University and lost in straight sets. So this weekend is homecoming weekend. Sir, if you haven't been to a volleyball game, I think you need to come over and watch some volleyball on Friday or Saturday. It should be a great weekend. The Warriors host number 16 Southern Oregon, and then also Oregon Tech this weekend. I don't get to work the game on Friday, but I'll be working the game Saturday. You should come over and watch these girls play. They are quite good.
I got my own son at homecoming Saturday, so I got a show for that.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Also, 23 LC Warriors earn athletic, all academic, all conference honors. There was 10 men's cross country athletes, 7 women, and 6 volleyball athletes in that one. Bryce Brown, Carter Gordon, Connor May, Luke Selman, Jacob Adams, Connor Alexander, Alexander Fry, Tristan O'Brien, Clay Shoemaker, and Kobe Wessels are the 10 men. For the girls cross country, Madison Howe, Abigail Panical, Brooklyn Shell, Abigail Gorton, Grace McCormick, and Grace Dixon, along with Grace Teagues. And for volleyball, getting recognition, Ashley Bachman, friend of the show. She's been on many times. Also, Kenzie Dean, also a friend of the show. Hallie Seaman, Kirsten York, along with Juliana Forgash Aguilar and Esther Khalidi Pony, all coming away with honors. So congratulations to all of those LC Warriors folks. So, all right, sir, let's jump back in. Do we want to do picks or do you want to talk power rankings, sir? I'm going to give you the option.
Probably do picks since I got to get in like 10 minutes, so might as well.
All right. So we'll jump on to the picks. Last week, again, Randy had a great 9-1 in high school. I went 8-2 in high school. And then in the college ranks, I would like to forget about the college ranks, sir. It was a very bad week. Myself, I went 2-8 in college with a lot of upsets. Eric, who was a guest host last week, went 3-7. Randy went 5-5 in the college pick'ems, and we had a few games that were just terrible. Right now, Randy has a 9-game lead on me in the high school and college picks. Now, for NFL, I have the lead on him there, though. But Randy is at 95-35. I am at 86-44. Now, sir, you are a local guy, so I'm going to make you pick the local picks too. We'll start the first game.
Okay.
It is going to be Lewiston, who is 4-4 on the season, taking on and traveling up to Coeur d'Alene. Randy and I both take Coeur d'Alene. Who do you like in that matchup?
Well, I had to go with Coeur d'Alene also.
We look at Clarkson versus Shadle Park. Shadle Park right now is 1 spot ahead of Clarkson at 6-1. Clarkson 5-2. Randy and I are both taking Clarkson. You talk to a lot of people up north. Everybody's thinking Shadle Park is the team to beat, but who do you have in that game?
Yeah, when in doubt, I went with a home team. I've heard the same thing. It's going to be a tight one, but home team, let's get it.
Yeah, Clarkson should come away. I'm hoping so. And we could easily lock up a second place finish in that one. Pullman, who I watched play the other day, they are playing without their main running back. And there was a Champ Milwaukee show along with Gavin Brown. They're 2-5, taking on the same an East Valley team, also 2-5. Randy goes East Valley. I'm going to go Pullman. So we're split. You're the tiebreak, sir. Who do you got in that one?
I think I'd give this one to East Valley.
It's going to be a good matchup. DeSales 5-2 on the season at Pomeroy. Pomeroy 6-1. They have not been playing 6-1 ball game. They are easily the top pick. Randy and I both take Pomeroy. Who say you, sir?
Yeah, I'll go Pomeroy as well.
And that was a
Maybe
good
not 90
pick.
points this time.
Maybe not. It's going to be close, let me tell you. This one, I think this is the number one game of the week. This is probably the toughest game. Kamei at Potlatch, both of them 6-1 on the season. Kamei is ranked number 2. Potlatch is ranked number 3 in the White Pine League. Kamei is allowing 76 points, 12 point, allowing just 12 points a game. Potlatch is averaging 28 points in the first quarter alone. It is just crazy. Potlatch averaging 11 more points per game. Give me Potlatch, and I think probably the best game of the week.
Yeah, it was like I'm getting more into the high school scene this year, and this is one that I was torn on, but decided, you know what, home team, when in doubt, that's where you're going.
Yeah, and it is going to be probably the toughest game of the week. The other one is the second toughest one I think of the week is Prairie taking on Logos. Logos is the number one ranked team in the White Pine League. Prairie number 4. So we're talking about we're talking about 4 guys in Kamei Potlatch is 2 and 3. All of them playing against each other this week. Logos ranked number 1. I'm going to take Logos. Randy also takes Logos. Who do you have?
Let's make it a clean sweep.
And Doof's going to take Logos on that one. Homedale 8-0 at McCall Donnelly 6-1. Homedale is the number 2 ranked team in the 3A standings for Idaho. McCall Donnelly is number 6. Homedale averaging 45 points a game. Both clubs have allowed just over 80 points total for the season. Randy and I both take Homedale. Who say you, sir?
Yeah, I do Homedale as well.
All right. And Lewis County 3-4 on the season at Timberline 2-5. Both of us take Randy and I are taking Lewis County.
Yeah, same here.
We get down to our last two, St. Mary's 2-5 taking on the winless Orofino Maniacs. Orofino just has not been well since losing one of their players earlier in the season. It has been quite an emotional roller coaster up there. Both Randy and I take St. Mary's, the visiting team in Orofino.
Yeah, I gotta take St. Mary's too.
And the last game with this one is the 1-6 Trojans taking on Clearwater Valley. Both teams are pretty evenly matched in the stats. Troy has allowed more points. Give me Clearwater Valley for that notion alone.
I'll be different. I'll go Troy with this time.
All right. So that's the high school ones. Hopefully, look like Randy and I have most of the same ones except for East Valley Pullman. So I guess I'm going to be an East Valley Pullman. I'm going to be a Pullman Greyhound fan this weekend. So, all right, let's jump over to our college picks. We start on Wednesday night. It is New Mexico State 4-3 at UTEP. Right now, the morning lines this morning was New Mexico State with a 3-point lead. Randy's going to take UTEP. I'm taking New Mexico State. Who are you going to take?
I would do New Mexico State also.
All right, and taking the full Rice on Thursday, 3-3, taking on at Tulsa. Tulsa is the morning favorite at 3-point. I am going to take Tulsa. Randy takes Tulsa. Who are you taking, sir?
I do Tulsa as well.
All right. James Madison, one of our big ones, 6-0 in the season at Marshall, 4-2. James Madison is a 3.5-point favorite. Randy and I both take JMU. Do you take Marshall, sir?
Nah, I'll do James Madison as well.
All right. Saturday, we'll jump into some games. Number 7, Penn State, who is 6-0 on the season, taking on number 3, Ohio State. Both of us are taking OSU, even though I'm not an OSU fan. I think it's going to be total domination by the Buckeyes.
I don't. I think Penn State's finally going to beat Ohio State.
I would sure love that. I would vote that way, but I'm gonna take it on that one there. Number 14, Utah 5-1, taking on number 18, USC. I think USC bounces back after the game from this last week against Notre Dame. Morning line odds 7 points in favor of USC. Randy and I both take the Trojans.
Yeah, I think Caleb Williams is too good to do that again. So USC for me.
This next game was a tough one for me. I was back and forth with this one. Number 17, Tennessee, 5-1 on the season, at Tuscaloosa against number 11, Alabama, who's also 6-1. 9.5-point favorite for Bama. Doof, Randy and I both take the Crimson Tide. How about you?
No.
Yeah. You're gonna go Tennessee.
Yeah, because there's another one of those games too where Tennessee, I think, can just do it, and I'm not sold that Alabama is good this year. Everything's way too close.
Everything has been way too close. You're exactly right, and it was really hard last week to pick against Tennessee, but I got to do it again. Alabama, home favorite. It's got to be that way. So, Toledo,
crap for my picks, but
Toledo, another FCS game. Toledo at Miami of Ohio. Toledo's a 2-point favorite. Both Randy and I are going to take Miami of Ohio. Who say you, sir?
I got to go with Miami of Ohio also.
And it is going to be a clean sweep on that one. Clemson, 4-2, taking on the other Miami. Right now, Miami is 4-2. Clemson is an early line favorite at 3.5. Randy takes Miami. I'm going to take the Tigers. So, sir, you are the tiebreaker on that one.
Yeah, I think Miami ruined their own season with that awful ending against Georgia Tech. So I'm taking Clemson as well.
Yeah, and I know our buddy Eric Watkins would be taking Miami with that. He had his Miami jersey on last week. So another game. This is going to be an interesting. We've watched both of these teams. We've seen Georgia State on TV. Georgia State 5-1 taking on Louisiana 4-2. Right now, Louisiana is favored by 2.5. Again, we are split. Randy's going to take Louisiana. I'm taking Georgia State. Who are you taking for the tiebreak?
I guess I'm anti-Randy this week, so I'm going to Georgia State.
Another GSU. And the final. And the final college game of the week, and we'll talk about that really fast. It is probably the best FCS matchups of the week. The number 1 team, Montana State, taking on the number 4 team, Sacramento State. Both teams 5-1. Montana State is on the road, but they have been very dominant. They have outscored their opponents. They have 100 more points than all the next closest person in points. So give me Montana State. Randy's taking Montana State's. Sir, do you have the Bobcats also?
Yeah, I'll go Montana State with that one as well.
All right. Those are the high school picks and the college picks. You can see those tomorrow. They'll be up on the R&R Facebook page at about probably about 10 o'clock. They'll be posted, and you can go and check those picks out, see all of our records and that. I'm going to get one more pick from you, sir. We jumped over it, and we're going to dive back over to it really fast. It is the Thursday night game. As much as we love the Thursday night games, and Randy usually takes his loser pick from that one. Jacksonville at New Orleans. Right now, New Orleans is a 1-point favorite, and Randy didn't give me his pick for this one. So I'm going to have to wait for his picks on tomorrow before I can get them ready. I'm going to take Jacksonville, even though Trevor Lawrence is dealing with the sprained knee. They're saying it's not going to be a major thing. And I'm going against Alvin Kamara and what Kamara is doing with that ball club. Who are you taking in the Thursday night game?
I picked Jacksonville also. I think the Saints are good, but they have Derek Carr, and he's either going to be Derek Carr that can throw for 400 yards or Derek Carr that'll throw for 400 interceptions.
Yeah,
And I
yeah.
think Jacksonville is just good, and I think they laid that egg against Houston, and I think they could have beat KC, but they're they're not San Francisco, but they're like San Francisco, where they'll just beat you but not be flashy about it.
I agree 1,000% on that. I I don't just Derek Carr has not proven for me to really jump on the train with him. But watching what Kamara's doing, I think New Orleans still misusing Taysom Hill just a little bit. I think they should be using him a lot different. So uh, I'm going to take Jacksonville again with that one. So, dude, I'll say thank you for jumping on. I know you got to get off here. Haley says thank you for jumping in for Randy tonight. We do
I'm mad at you
appreciate
for
that.
beating me in the picks, so you're not
Me?
welcome.
Oh,
No,
Haley.
Haley.
Oh, Haley. Yeah, she did quite well with them from what I'm understanding. So, really quick, one last chance. We got a few viewers on here right now. We got one. You got one vote. You got one vote. We'll see if Haley gives you the other vote. I have a funny feeling she gives you the vote. In the sports related draft, it was the funniest names of sport athletes. Doof went with Dick Trickle, Chris Fuamaku Mahafala. I think I butchered it anyway. And Haha Clinton Dix for his funny names of sport athletes. I went with Dick Pound, Dong Dong, and Yoshi Takeshita. And it looks. And dude, congratulations! It looks like you are going to pick up the win as your other half. Like you already knew she was going to vote for you. But
That's not a guarantee.
this other guy, I think he's going to vote against me, whatever matters. Kevin Driscoll, voting for you as well. Dude, I had a blast. I appreciate you jumping in and
Same
hanging
here.
out with me for a while. So now you guys got to we'll have to get all three of us together and do this again. And Tom,
I agree.
Tom's laughing at you a little bit, but I think Tom likes my picks a little bit better. I could be wrong.
He would.
He probably would. Oh well, Haley laughed at it, but Ha Clinton can't be beat. So it looks like you're going to pick up the win this week, sir. So congratulations again. Thank you very much for joining me for a while. I know you got stuff going on, and I will see you on Sunday.
All right, sounds good. Appreciate it.
All right, thanks, buddy. That was my buddy, Randy's buddy, Mr. David Dufenberg. Always a great time having him on, and I know he took some time out to jump on the show and do that. Let us know. It looks like he is going to run away with the sports related draft. I had a great time looking at some of the names, unbelievable, funny names. Go look at them, have a good time with them, and go from there. Let's jump in and talk a little bit of our power rankings. Power rankings went up on the R&R Sports Report Facebook page this morning, and some changes, some shakeups in our moves. Not really a lot in the top five, but San Francisco now number one, Kansas City number two, Miami number three, Detroit number four, and Philadelphia number five. And that's where our top five is. And yes, Haley, I can't believe people would name their children that either. And especially some of the crazy names. If you missed it, I did. Part of the reason this came up, and I talked with Randy about it, was the idea of having the names Raw Thomas this past week taking on and being defended by Gumbo Gaskin. It blows me away with some of these names and this. And if you wanted to really throw some of the other crazier names out there, you had Pig Cage, who played for LSU. you had Storm Duck, who actually played for the Tar Heels. So lots of different crazy names. Choke, uh, Google it and look at some of the different athletes. It is just crazy. Um, let's talk about some of the biggest movers this week. And I think one of the bigger ones that we saw, and I bumped them up, was the New York Jets. What the Jets did this week, upsetting Philadelphia, and it leads to what Doof said. Is Doof took a uh, Tony Adams. Adams comes up with a huge interception, 45 yards um, to really seal that game and give that win to the Jets. The Jets look like the defense they had we talked about early in the year. They just look like they are finally getting their rhythm. And then you get another guy. How about Sauce Gardner? He gets Sauce out there. He is playing quite well. Taking a look really quick as the Philadelphia Phillies have now blown this game wide open, bottom of the seventh, 2 outs, and they now lead Arizona 10-0. So almost guaranteed this game's almost over, and it's going to be both ball clubs having a 2-0 lead. Also, another big one that moved up our power rankings was the Washington Commanders, moving up 6 spots. Last week they were 26. This week they're tied for 20th. Cincinnati, as much as people said it, and I listened to it this week, and a few people kind of doubted me with my thoughts of what Cincinnati is doing, but Joe Burrow is finding himself. They're getting the ball to Jamar Chase. They just need to get Joe Mixon a little bit more run, be a lot more consistent there. I think this team, you're going to find them probably back up in the top 10. Right now they're just one game out. Last week they were 16. This week they are sitting 11th. Another big mover was the Atlanta Falcons with their loss this week. They fall down 7 spots from 17 to 24th. And the other one is Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay losing their game. They go down 6 from 9 to 15. And you look at, excuse me, you look at some of the other movers of the week, and with the biggest spread, the biggest one is the Washington Commanders. They Sean Garmer. Let's thank a few of those folks that are helping us write them. You've got Chris Picard, who is on here all the time chatting us up. We appreciate that. Eric Watkins, same. Harry Broadhurst, they all talking these up. Sean Garmer, Zach Swan. We appreciate this week helping Randy and I out. Randy does a lot with this, and so we do appreciate your help with writing him. But this was one the biggest spread. Eric had him the Commanders at 26. Sean had them at 13th. So they're getting better. They're coming off of wins. I think the running game, Gibson's got to get the ball a little bit more than what he has gotten it over the last few weeks. Gibson only touched the ball 3 times. That just can't happen. If you want to be that number one guy, you've got to get the touches all the time. Brian Robinson gets 10 carries for 31 yards. Just got to find a running game for this offense. Sam Howell, again, not a huge impressive game. This was not a game that I wanted to sit and watch, even though still a decent Desmond Ridder fan. Desmond has not been living up to what he was doing in college. So look for both of these teams. They've got to increase and they've got to play a lot better. Biggest one, I know I'm going to get some flack from this. I've got a few friends that are in Indianapolis Colts fans, but I dropped the Indianapolis Colts down to the 25th spot. The highest spot was at 13 with Chris, so 12 spot swing in this one. Listen, if Anthony Richardson is done, this is going to highly affect this team. As much as you guys are all on board with Gardner Minshew, what he has done, he is the best he will ever be. Will be a backup quarterback. I don't see him leading an offense after these last couple of years. I don't see him doing it all the time. Uh, with Jim Irsay coming out today and saying more than likely, and they're leaving it up to Anthony Richardson, that he is done for the season, it is going to be a tough sell for this team. Even though Jonathan Taylor now has been paid, they're giving him the money and he's getting back, he still doesn't have the practice reps with these guys. And I think that is showing right now in this ball club. And the other big ranking spreads have to be the Cincinnati Bengals. And Eric had them at 8. Sean Garmer has them at 18. So 10 spot swing with those guys. Listen, Jamar Chase is an athlete. Joe Burrow is an athlete. This division is a great division. It just is taking a little bit of a slow time to get this this ball club going this year. You know, Joe Burrow wasn't part of it. So now you look at where this team sits, Cincinnati right now, 3-3. They are sitting in last place in the AFC North. But listen, we're 6 weeks into this. We still got plenty of time to get this team going. Baltimore, 4-2 and leading the division. The other teams are right in the middle. I still think we pull at least 2 of the wild cards out of this one. So, or at least one wild card is coming out of our out of the division. So whether it's Baltimore and Pittsburgh or Baltimore and Cincinnati, or I'll even say it, you know, you look at Cleveland. Cleveland is dominant. They have been playing quite well. Deshaun Watson wasn't is finally getting to the point where I think you could trust him a little bit. Kamar Hunt played extremely well. That defense is unbelievable with Myles Garrett. So a lot can happen in that AFC North, and I'm not going to count anybody out in that one. If you would like to read them, and they are all there, I have read part of them today with my busy schedule. I got through about half of them with our writers who are writing for us. Go to the R&R Sports Report Facebook page. Read our power rankings. There's so many other things besides our power rankings. There is our college pick'ems, our college high school pick'ems, our NFL pick'ems. Make sure you go check those out as those are posted during the week. Let's turn our attention really quick. We'll talk a little bit about some golf that is happening going on this past week. Tom Kim picks up his back-to-back wins at the Shriners Open, defending his title there in Las Vegas this past week. Kim shoots a 66, 5 under on Sunday. So he shot 20 under for the tournament, takes home $1.5 million. But great showing by a local boy. Clarkston's Joel Damon has an unbelievable showing. He also shoots a 66 on Sunday, 5 under, and ends up tied for 7th place, shooting 17 under. So it's good to see him do well. There's a great picture of him if you do follow him on social media. On his Twitter page, also on his Facebook page. He does have a his drive during the eclipse that happened on Saturday. There's a great picture with that. And so make sure you go and check that out. Good thing. Looking excited for the fall and winter schedule of the golf that's coming out. So go and check those things out. PGA Tour, the Zozo Classic Championship happens in Shiba, Japan this weekend. It will start on Thursday and go through Sunday. So make sure you go and watch those. I know I was going to ask Doof. I didn't get to it, and I was going to ask Randy. Randy very busy with his stuff going on. But some games you want to watch this weekend, I think for me, if you're going to watch a college game this weekend, it's got to be one of two. I think Tennessee, Alabama is going to be a game this next week. And I believe that game is slated for, let me get to it, Tennessee and Alabama. That is the 12:30 CBS game, so that'll be a great slated game. The other game that I believe is going to be a huge game, and that is the Montana State Sacramento State game. It is at 7:30. That is going to be on ESPN2. That is a Montana Bobcats. I will talk with Len Kelly about that game on Friday night as he's helping with the Clarkson High School scoreboard. We'll be doing that. We'll talk about that game and what he thinks, and I'll bring you his insight. We'll talk a little bit about that next Tuesday night, but I think that is the other main college game you want to look at. As far as all college games, it looks like this week is probably going to be one of those slower ones. Local game, the Washington State Cougars are on the road to Eugene, take on the Oregon Ducks. And then if you look at the NFL games this weekend, I think the game that really stands out for me will be the Miami at Philadelphia game. That one is the afternoon game, I believe, here, if I remember right. No, it is the Friday night game or the Sunday night game. Miami in Philadelphia. Philadelphia's got to bounce back after the tough loss to the Jets this past weekend. I think this is going to be a great game, even though the Dolphins are missing their key rookie Mosier, and Tua, along with Tyreek Hill, is going to be a dominant factor in this game. Philadelphia needs to get their defensive players back. Jalen Carter was out this last week. Look for him to get back. Also, left tackle Lane Johnson needs to get back for Philadelphia. So this is going to be a great matchup this week. So let us know. Be watching for the picks for them coming out. The college and high school picks will come out on tomorrow at 10 o'clock. And then Thursday at 10 o'clock in the morning, you will see Randy's and my picks for the NFL week. Randy's got a substantial lead, 9 games on me in the college high school matchups, as he is currently sitting 95-35, and I am sitting at 86-44. As far as the NFL picks right now, I am leading that one 59-34 to Randy's 54-39. I have a 5-game lead in that. So make sure you check those out. Well, that's all the notes I've got. That's all I've got. So I'm going to shake out a few minutes earlier. I want to thank David Dufenberg again for stepping in for Randy. It was a pleasure to have him on, his insight. We will get those up, and I will include his picks in this week's college and high school picks. And we will be back next week as hopefully we're both back in the station for episode 154 next Tuesday. It will be a great episode. And then the Monday after will be Halloween, or the Tuesday after will be Halloween. So we are going to do a Monday show on October 30th, and we'll do it right after the Monday Night Football game. So join us. We'll hopefully get maybe we'll have a couple of folks on with us. We'll do that show live, and that'll take us to the end of October. And it's such a busy time, as it'll be wrapping up high school football at that time. So thank you, David Dufenberg, and appreciate you sitting in for us. And we'll see you back here next week for another edition of the R&R Sports Report. Have a good one, night.